Welcome everyone to the LinkedIn Live. Today we're doing something a little different, kind of the story behind the story. It's going to be an interactive conversation with my special guest and dear friend, Dustin Talley. He's the founder of Direct Collective, the community of contingent workforce leaders. So we're going to discuss his journey into staffing, why the community is so important, how leaders better manage their platforms, and what's next for the contingent workforce, especially in the world of AI. Things are changing so quickly. So welcome, my friend. Thank you for coming today.
Thanks, Ash. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too.
Thanks for joining from London. Ash is all over the world, as you guys know.
And I love this. This is our new format we're doing with you. So I'm excited to see how it comes out. So what attracted you to staffing in the first place, and how did you get started?
Mine was I went to school as I was wrapping up, thinking I was going to do finance. So I went for an interview at Merrill Lynch here in Jacksonville, actually. And the lady I was interviewing with flipped the script on me. She's like, "You don't want to work here. You should join me." And I was like, I thought it was one of those like tricks where you're like, try to sell yourself. Like, no, I really want this job. So I went down that path. And I was like, well, what do you do? And she's like, well, I'm like the on-site for Merrill Lynch. We do all the contingent requisitions, blah, 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 right? All the vernacular. And I was like, I don't know what any of that means, but it sounds cool. And so I found my way into, at the time, it would probably be considered like a vendor on-premise kind of model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're the vendor on-premise delivering staffing services to Merrill Lynch. Yeah. And then from there, kind of like loved the space, stayed in it, and fast forward, it's been 20 years. So that happens too. Yeah.
So she got you to redirect. Like her job was to bring you in to place you in a finance role.
Her job was to bring me in on a contract role at Merrill Lynch, which would have been a totally different path, right? And she's like, "It seems like you like people. You should do this with me." And so yeah. But you hear tons of people do these kind of interviews like this, and they're like, "I didn't go to school for staffing. None of us do really." Yeah. I think you either just like people and like connecting people to work and like find some purpose in this, and that's how you end up in it. So that's true for me.
And did you always start in contingent, or did you do other parts of the business beforehand?
Mine was always the contract workforce. Wow. So I've been all staffing the entire time. Went deeper into the MSP world, right? So from there, I actually went on to lead the program at Oracle. And at that point, maybe we can weave some of the industry stuff into this too. By that point, more vendor neutral model had picked up. And so I made my way to my first vendor neutral program where we were the on-site MSP, kind of building it from the ground up back then. But that was the intent, is to have it be a vendor neutral program. And did that a number of different places before I made my way out of the staffing side of this and more into like the payroll side of the world, right? Still dealing with talent, but yeah. So that's kind of the quick journey into how I got into the space and spent my time. We'll get to it in a minute, but obviously I'm not doing any of that anymore, and it took my path took a totally different direction. How'd you get into this, Ash? Let me interview you. How'd you end up doing this? Does anyone ever flip that on you?
They do. I'll tell you in a second. But the interesting thing is, like, so I used to say that the MSP program was built because the hiring managers and the staffing firms would price the same thing differently, but depending on whether you get a steak dinner or not. And so you were one of the first people to pull the steak dinner out of the pricing process. Essentially.
That's I like the analogy. I could get down with that.
So you asked how I got in. So I got into this, when I was in college, I interned at Aetna, but the year before that I interned for my friend's company, or friend's dad's company. And he had a hardware business also, and a staffing thing he was trying to launch at the time. So I did a summer internship there. I was building machines, and then he's like, "Do you want to try this?" So I said, all right. So I placed a few people for them. Then the next year I went to Aetna as an intern. I was working on like the Oracle, the second largest database in the country, as an Oracle database at the time. Yeah. And my boss is like, within like 2 weeks or 3 weeks of working there as an intern, he's like, I have like 2 months vacation that I'm not gonna be able to use. So do you think you could like find me an Oracle DBA job on the side, and do you just take off while I'm gone? I was like, all right, I'm an intern. I don't know anything. I guess I'll do it for you. Yeah. So I placed him through Robert Half at a pharma company for 8 weeks. A week after he left, the system went down. So I had trial by fire, like these senior VPs looking over me and saying, "Can you get this back up?" And I'm like, "Sure." On the phone with the Oracle support, gets it up. In the meantime, I'm thinking like I'm an intern, but I just placed my boss at a client site. I'm going to get a good commission as a staffing person because I asked my friends how much they get as recruiters. I'm like, this is going to be awesome because while I'm in college, I'll make a little bit extra money.
Yeah.
And my reward was from Robert Half was a cheeseburger.
Nice. Cheeseburgers for payment. Yeah.
Even though they made,
and that was appetizing enough that it brought you into the industry. So.
Yep. And so then after that, I went to college, finished college, went to Accenture for a few years, joined an internet incubator where we invested in a fund and did joint ventures with startups, and we'd hire staffing agencies to help staff them up. 99, the dot-com bubble burst, and I was like, let's forget building $1 billion business. Let's build a business that makes sense and makes cash.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I started it.
I knew this part of the story. I'd never heard the cheeseburger though. That was your first payment. I love that, dude. Good stuff.
Yeah, the funny part of that is 20 years later, I was on the board of TechServe Alliance, and one of the two recruiters that gave me the cheeseburger was on the board with me, and I'm like, I know you.
All right, we're all gonna call Ash the cheeseburger guy from now on. Noted.
So how'd you get the idea for Direct Collectives? I know that you went to from the staffing side to the MSP side to
EOR. And I'll stop there for just a second because while I was at MBO, I got to be one of the early dudes to the direct sourcing scene. So in 2014, we rolled out a direct sourcing solution there. I started building it, I should say. It wasn't really rolled out, like right when the terminology even came up. So I got to be like in that innovative, like test things out, figure it out, business lead for this new product for a company. That kept me around the program leader. I don't use the word buy side. Everybody will hear me say this until I'm blue in the face or whatever. But I don't think there are buyers in this space. I think they're program leaders, they're operators of programs, they're practitioners. That's who I spent the first 15 years of my career with, most of it. Like, even though I worked for these companies, like that was my sponsor, my client, the problem I was solving. Anyways, fast forwarding a little bit, I left and started my own advisory firm. I timed it. I think I timed it pretty well. I left in 21 and started doing advisory work in the space. And it was great. Like, I picked up clients left and right. I know that's not the case for everybody. It kind of depends on when you jump out and your network and a lot of different factors. But I was working on a lot of the commercial solutions in the space, and not with like the same group, the program leaders that I've been working with the first 15 years of my prior career. So I just started, this was still like COVID-esque times. So I started one of those like happy hour things where every 2 weeks we were jumping on a call, and it was me and a bunch of program leaders, and we were talking about what they're working on. And it went from 9 to 18 to eventually 50 something people. And I was like, there's something here. Like, should we build this out? Right. And probably that entire first year I had on a product hat in a sense, because I had just come from a product role. And so you're listening to problems and things that exist in the space that seemingly didn't have solutions for it. And the grand idea was like, what if we just found a really awesome way to connect all of you guys with one another? What would that look like? And so that started the whole ideation phase of getting Direct Collective out there. What a lot of people don't know is I continued advising. Like, I thought I was building, I thought I was Kara Kresge. She didn't exist in this form at the time, but I thought I was building like my own consulting practice and kind of going to market with that, and was about ready to start bringing some people into that. But I kept advising, and then was just kind of pouring resource or capital into Direct Collective. We had already named it at that point, for the next 2 years. And so it just kind of grew and incubated on its own. I think in the last 24 months is when most people have probably heard about it. But at that point, it had a 2-year foundation. And that's when I quit my job again, is probably the best way to say it. So I started sunsetting all of my consulting work to focus in entirely on Direct Collective in 24. But yeah, that's where the idea came from, is just listening to program leaders and what they thought needed to exist in the space. Most everything in this space is built overly commercial. Again, back to we call them buyers because we need to be sellers. And if you're a seller, you need a buyer. And it creates this like weird environment that to me is not authentic. And so we created a one-sided, we call it a community, right? It's not a marketplace. There's no selling, there's none of that. And we focused in exclusively on the community of program leaders and what is it that they want. So yeah, I'll say more on that at some point, but that's how it came to be, dude. Yeah.
It's interesting that even the buyer thing that you mentioned twice, I never thought about it this way, but you're right. They're actually not even buyers because they don't buy anything. They're signing a contract, but the hiring manager is the buyer, and they're the orchestrator or the person who decides whether you can do business with them or not, right? But it's just an opportunity to do business, and they're kind of managing the compliance, the regulatory. It's a very complex job, and a buyer is a very simple thing that you're making.
Totally agreed. And most of these people aren't just signing contracts either, right? Like they're truly standing up the program, and like they've got a customer in their own organization that they deal with too. And then they've got all these partners in this ecosystem that they need to orchestrate to like deliver this solution to the client, to their end client. And so, I just always looked at it, I was like, I don't like that term. And I think it exists for a reason. I think it exists in other industries as well. But I think it's fabricated so that more selling can take place.
Yeah. So how do you join what are the rules to joining the Direct Collective?
What are the rules? I mean, we have a whole terms and conditions. I don't think you want me to read that off.
No, more like, how do I qualify or do I not qualify as a buyer?
Everybody leads a program. So this would be someone who sits in the seat and works for the organization, that manages or owns the contingent workforce for their company. Where I get some challenge or pushback is there are some people, including myself, right? The programs that I was a part of early on, I was actually the MSP on site in this world. This where I'm going to get into some things that like, hopefully everybody in the world in this industry is listening at this moment, or this is recorded and you guys can do with this what you want. But this doesn't exist for the MSP side for a number of reasons. But one, I can't let those people into our community at large because I don't know if they're actually someone who sells inside of that MSP or they actually sit in a program. And so like that program leader who is in an MSP seat, they get overlooked for things like this. Someone should create a version of Direct Collective for that audience. Now, there's a challenge to that though, in that like, well, MSPs don't want their IP being shared across other MSP leaders. So there really should be something like this that every one of these companies within the MSP space connect their leaders with one another. And I'll go back to, this is not calling out any of these organizations, by the way, but I'll go back to the two companies I work for in the industry. And I know it's still this way today. Oftentimes the person that sits in that seat feels like they work for their end client, but their paycheck comes from this MSP company. And so it's really hard to absorb the culture of one of these large MSPs and like really be connected to like them as the hub, but then swivel chair and like go be in the client environment. So it's just a really weird seat to sit in. But I'd love to see some of the big companies in our space do a better job of connecting their leaders internally. And I'm sure some of them are doing it and they'll send me messages after that. After this. And but yeah, I'd love to see more of that, dude. So long-winded answer, all program side, there is no sell side, if you will, to our world. We do have a handful of partners, but the way we partner here is so different, dude. Like we want the voice of your customer in this room, not you. My sales friends hate that because like, the whole reason we all go to events is to be around the buy side that again doesn't exist. It's fictitious, but we all go to events to be around the buy side. And so if I'm a salesperson in the space and they're like, wait, so how do I get in the room? You can, but you can bring a client in and they can be your voice. And so the reason for that though is there's some really good salespeople in this space and some companies that are really shitty at servicing in this industry. And so just because I sign on and I'm all excited to go do business with this new company, I land with my delivery team for that, that company. And I'm like, ooh, this is not good. And so that's where we go with it. We're like, cool, who's actually delivering in this space? Let's tell those stories. It's not a white paper. It's not this like two-dimensional testimonial on a website. It's a living story within Direct Collective. And so we have a lot of the partners in the ecosystem that sponsor memberships here. And then we have a handful that are doing more strategic things with us and getting a broader awareness across Direct Collective. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So you're putting the buyers, the quote unquote buyers together in a room that they can share ideas and feel free to criticize or accolade the service you're getting from various third-party vendors or MSPs.
Yeah.
And not
more about highlighting and bringing to the surface the things that are working, less of the bitching about the stuff that doesn't. Does LinkedIn block us if I say stuff like that?
No, I don't think so. But luckily, we're on stream.
It already shut the feed off at this point. No, but the thought process was like, how do we make this a membership versus you being the product? Like you are the customer here. And as crazy as that sounds, they're 95% of the things that exist in the space. The people that, again, we referred to as buyers earlier, the program leaders, they're the product. And I think that's been the big difference the last 4 years. And what we've seen is when people get here, they get in the room, they're like, oh, wait, this is for me, not for me to be sold. And so that's been really sticky, as you can imagine.
So you turn them into a buyer.
In an ironic way. Yeah. Well, I'll go further with that, dude. So there's like the perpetual tire kickers out there too, right? That do want to go explore things. Think of this as a little bit of like an innovation lab. Like we want people getting together, comparing notes, and then moving more quickly on making decisions and putting things in place and creating better buying decisions. So I won't dub them with that term, but yeah, that is the outcome is we get out of our own way. We move our program forward more quickly because we're in a trusted environment where we can compare these notes and be like, oh, you're doing that at Marriott? Like I'd never even thought to try that. How did you do that? And then that starts the conversation and gets things moving more quickly.
No, it makes sense. And I always say free is expensive and it's not taking advantage too seriously. So like if you have them come in as a member, then they're going to put the effort in because they know it's something that they invested in, right? And so when you invest in it, take it more seriously.
That's a really good point.
How did you get the idea for this? And then why do you think the community is so important? Why do you think the staffing community is so important? Because a lot of people say we have issues in our industry and no one, like, it's not like it doesn't happen in any other industry. We're like corrupt and stuff, but whatever. And I know, and I feel like it's an industry that actually helps empower companies to bring products to the market faster. And it's a critical piece of it, even with the AI stuff coming up. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll take a different spin on that, but I think, again, because this is membership based and because people are getting in here, let me back up. We don't have outbound. Let's talk about outbound for a little bit, and then we'll go on some rabbit trails here. The amount of outbound that takes place in this space is very, very, very great, right? You've got 25,000 staffing companies arguably selling to these same 5,000 people. And I talked to one of my friends this week and they're like, oh, I emailed that person 7 times before they got back to me. Well, you and like 10,000 other people did that. And so the amount of outbound happening is insane. And like, we all expect people are just waiting for us to invite them to the next thing. They're not. When we were incubating this, one of the leaders, one of our founding members, like pulled up her LinkedIn and was showing me like the amount of messages, right? Ask any program leader to show you their DMs. It's insane. So I think that was one of the parts, just the way that we approach it. It's not something we're saying, it's something we're doing. Because I think talk is cheap, but action actually shows where your heart is on some of these things. And so we've been true to that. And I'd love to challenge the industry to figure out a better approach. But the truth of it is, most of us that are in a sales seat report to some person that is tracking those metrics. And they're like, did you make your 100 calls this week? Did you do that? And so like, it's broken at the top in terms of like how we reach out to people in this space. I'm totally going off course of your original direction, but I'll weave into this, dude. Community is not something we should slap on top of things. I think a lot of people say, oh, our community. What does that actually mean when you say our community? I always think about like my neighborhood, right? In my community, my neighbors are there for me. Like maybe I'm going to take off for a few hours and I'm like, hey, can you keep an eye on my kids? Like they're at the house, but like they're flying solo at the moment. And like neighbors will do those kind of things. Panda the dog, apparently.
I love that.
Neighbors will do those kind of things. And so that's my thought around community is like, hey, who's got your back in this space? And so that to us, that's what community means, not just saying like, oh, we've collected a bunch of people. And so I think that's something I'd love to call out as well as like, we are a industry that is about people. And I'd love to just see us be better about that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you one more question around this topic because you brought in sales a little bit. So most of us as in the industry are always trying to chase the next customer instead of going deeper in the existing one we have, right? So why do we have this FOMO sales strategy that instead of like working with the customer you're doing really well with and trying to expand your partnership and do more work with them, you look for like little bits from other places? And then the second thing is you made a post the other day about don't ask me to introduce you to somebody. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that too, because there's context around that.
Yeah, I can share some on that. So I think I'll answer the intro question first, actually, and then we'll reverse into this. You're throwing 2 for 1s at me, which is fair. I think I've become a proxy for a program leader. We have 300 program leaders in Direct Collective. I still have people I'm really good friends with that are not even in Direct Collective, right? This isn't their thing, and that's fine. So arguably I probably have reached into 400 or 500 people via text or a platform or whatever it is. I think I've become a target for some people, like, oh my God, can you introduce me to so-and-so? Like I've emailed them 7 times, right? And they're not responding, but maybe if you introduce me, maybe they'll respond to me. And I think introductions is like a form of currency. An introduction should typically be done when the 2 people you're introducing, you have a high level of trust with both of them, not that you're just doing it for commercial interest. And I think at the tip of that sphere is commercial interest when someone reaches out to you. It's not like, oh my God, I want to help them. It's, oh my God, I want to sell to them. And so that's where intros can be broken. However, I reverse engineer a lot of things. Intros is one of them. We do sounding board sessions in Direct Collective. I could rattle off 15 people that I've introduced in the last month. And so anybody that's like, oh, he's a hypocrite. He did an introduction to me last week. Well, this is someone coming to me saying, hey, I want to explore X, Y, and Z. Who do you know? Who should I be talking to? And this is where I've got to be like really good to the space and not just to our partners, is like, I need to understand the space as like a consultant and advisor, like as neutral as possible, to say, you should look at these 4 things. And, perhaps one of them have partnered with Direct Collective, but the others, I just know they're a good partner in the industry. And so that's how I approach intros, is when people seeking commercial interest in that program seat are looking to explore things, I'll make that form of intro. But to the 500 sales friends I have in this space, like they know I don't do intros. Like it's not how it works. So that post was just about being guarded in your intros. And that like relationships are special and they shouldn't be burned over introductions.
100%. And there should be like a purpose of a reason why they're actually connecting, not just because I want to meet that person. Right?
Yeah.
Do you do anything? I mean, you gave me another idea. Do you do anything with like focus groups? So like, let's say that I have 1,000 different ideas that I always want to start. And so like, let's say I want to start, I had this idea around background checks 7 years ago about, I called it I am me.
Yeah.
And the idea was,
I like that.
Yeah. It's validating, like, because the holdup in background checks is like, you worked in Iowa in a courthouse, in a district that has a courthouse that's manual and you can't run. So you got to, every time you run a background check, you run from the start. Right. And so I was like, let's get rid of the first half of this and just put it up in some sort of locked vault that you can't change, and you could just share. And so like those kind of focus groups and saying, hey, to a client, would you use this sort of concept if I could onboard you 10 days faster?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. because I think you have a very powerful tool here with the market research kind of thing too. But they're not selling, but just exploring like.
Yeah, I'll get into a little bit of, by the way, I like that idea. I think the interesting thing, there are no shortage of good ideas, but there's definitely a shortage on the number of hours we have to pour into some of these things.
100%.
I think this has been successful for two reasons. One, I knew when to shut down things that didn't deserve my focus and put my time into this. And two, it's had time to incubate, to grow, to have, like, I always tell people, time is an ingredient, right? So like you need to put time into things. But yeah, so to your question, I'll tell you a little bit about how we work, and then I'm going to tell you about a partner of ours that I think is doing this the right way. So a lot of ours start with like micro crowdsourcing. I've got something I'm working on in my program. I want to validate that with the community. They'll go into this Ask the Community channel. We've crowdsourced 300-400 things at this point, by the way. And it is really freaking powerful to see. I had a leader call me one night and they're like, hey, I'm going into a leadership meeting tomorrow. And like, I need all this information about different companies. Like, what can you tell me? And I was like, go post it. Like, let's see what you get. And by the morning they woke up and they had 14 different perspectives that they could bring into this meeting. That's powerful, right? To get that like overnight, right? That happens regularly. With Indirect Collective, I like to say we're broad though. Like, we go across all things contingent workforce. Some people think we focus on direct sourcing because of the name Direct Collective, and we do talk about that, but that's not at all like the focus area, if you will. And then we do peer pods. So when there's something being discussed and people want to go more deep into that topic, if you're a core member, which is one of our member levels, you can book a peer-to-peer pod, basically. Like, you can have 8 of your peers jump into the session and you guys talk about it. You can solve some things in an hour and it's nice to talk about it. There's other ideas that need to be incubated. And I'm sure you know our buddy Chris at Proof of Concept. We're a partner to Proof of Concept. So when we see themes popping up regularly, or just some innovation that might be existing in the space that needs additional time, we push that over to Proof. And for us, that's a nice outlet because Proof does allow the connection of both parties, right? The solutions and the program leaders.
The collective concepts.
Yeah, exactly. So like the collective can move over to Proof, run this proof of concept. And those typically run 3 to 5 days. Chris and his team does an excellent job facilitating those. I think, dude, he wanted to do that long ago, right? I think he's just been waiting on the right moment. And it's cool to see what that's doing for the space. And there's a lot of innovation popping up, to your point though. And that's one of the ways that it's coming about.
So what do you think is what are you hearing is the biggest pain point for CW leaders currently? Dude,
all right, this is the moment, Ash. Thanks for opening the door. There are so many VMS upgrades, implementations, switcheroos happening at the moment. And the VMS companies, largely a number of years ago, they decided not to hold that implementation function in the same way that they had historically. So that left a little bit of a gap, right? The consulting companies of the world could come in and fill that. You've got some of the smaller players coming in saying, we'll do that function in addition. But I think the service or the implementation of VMSs is worse than it's ever been historically at the moment. It is very challenging for a leader to do anything, upgrade, switch to a new system, bring innovation in. And so, yeah, it's just, we're in an interesting inflection point with the VMS. I was talking to one of my friends within one of the VMS companies this week, and I compared it to, like, do you remember when you started going out to eat post-COVID and the service just got like worse and worse and worse? And you're like, what's going on? Like, when did the service get so bad? And not to compare implementing a VMS to that, but to compare it, it's like, in a similar timeline, VMS implementations have gotten bad, just like it feels to go out to eat now. And you're like, where the hell is the server? Like, why have they not come back to check on me? Like, that's what's existing in our space right now. So there's a number of botched VMS implementations going on at the moment. And I'd love to see that fixed. I think I'm just calling the industry out today, by the way, Ash, because I want us all to be better. This isn't to like point fingers, but I think there's a moment for us to like really step up and do cool things for this space. And I think we've been at a point where we're like stripping resource out of it, and people are operating with less, expected to do more.
This goes back to the original point we talked about, like why are we chasing new labels instead of like going deeper with our clients?
Oh, yeah. We didn't dig in on that far enough. But yeah.
You think about like if the VMSs are selling to new customers and they're not, that's just a right to earn revenue, but it doesn't actually turn into revenue until you implement it properly, right? And configure it. And so they're leaving the money on the table and just going after the labels, right?
There's something excited about the new labels, and arguably there are more people in sales than there are in implementation. Yeah. So once you get the new logo, I think you're just hopeful that it makes it through that implementation phase. And then maybe you've got someone good in your organization that can service it and like harvest the revenue on the back end. There are companies that, and you can pick any like VMS, EOR, staffing, you name it. Most of the revenue generation happens in that operation state, not in the sales state, right? Like salespeople promise the world and like that's their job to like get the logo in the door. And then there are some incredibly talented people in the operation side of these businesses. And those are the companies that are thriving right now, right? The ones that have figured out how to operate. I think we all think like, we'll just hire more salespeople and we'll get more logos. Do you follow Alex Hormozi? Hormozi fan? His thing is like focusing on what works. And like a lot of times that is taking that existing client and just delivering the heck out of it and making sure that you monetize them to a point, but also deliver like extreme value. I subscribe to that. I think, and actually if we play it out, most of these programs want less suppliers. And so if I'm a supplier, what that means is I should figure out which programs I very much want to keep around and spend my time with them. And then when I'm one of 6 versus one of 60, now I've got the market share in that program. But yeah, you're right. It is, people like to flash that logo slide and like, look, we have 300 customers.
That space, like, we have 0 revenue and we got the logo. How does working with collective of other CW leaders help solve challenges more quickly? So I think you kind of hit on this a little bit with sharing ideas and
it's an innovation studio if you think about it. When we were setting up our LinkedIn profile 4 years ago, I was like, this is kind of like a think tank. And the thing about think tanks is it gets you thinking, as the name suggests, and not just in that operations mode. Oh, I got to go pick this, pick that. And so I think there's value in people sitting around in a state of like figuring out what they're doing next. And then also taking notes from people who are doing cool things, right? We can go to a conference, and I love my conference people. We partner with a lot of different events, people in the event space. But you listen to that story being told on the stage, and you're like, is that true? Is that what's really happening there? Or is this a commercial that I'm watching, right? My kids know when it's a commercial. They fast forward through the commercials, right? Or like commercials don't exist like when you and I were kids. And I think that's one of the things I see is like, oh, this is not a commercial. You're actually telling me the crummy part of this too. Which doesn't always happen on stages, right? The stage is like polished, like, oh my God, we crushed it. And it's like, okay, cool, commercial, got it.
After we fired 3 program teams, then we crushed it. They don't take that part out.
Alan Chilson actually named ours. He's like, oh, this feels like the non-infomercial version of the space. And I'm like, I love it. And so, yes, I think that's the intent, is like get people here, get them excited about their role, right? Like people should be excited about their job too. Not that like, oh God, I got to come to work and be sold to 100 times today. Like, no, they get to move the mission of the contingent workforce forward for their organization. And that's actually really cool. We can play around with it and like geek out about it a little bit more, but at the end of the day, like the contingent workforce is growing. It's a significant portion of the overall workforce. And so this is a very important seat at the table, or that should be at the table in most of these organizations. And so getting people to like that point of realizing like you're the person to carry that mission forward in your company. And that's a big freaking deal. So
yeah.
No,
100%. So we talked about some of the big problems that are happening right now. What are some of the, on the other side of it, what are some of the most innovative things you're seeing happening in CW strategies?
Yeah. I'm going to stop talking about Direct Collective too, because I just realized I'm playing a commercial at this point, but hopefully people got my authenticity around it.
I'll keep bringing you back to it when I want to.
I know you will. So I'll say this, dude, the number of people that quit their jobs in the last 6 years and like attempted to consult or like maybe are consulting and crushing it. There is so much innovation that comes from that. There's a lot of economists think this is like a rebalancing of the Industrial Revolution, right? We all went to work for big companies and now it's kind of breaking down and getting smaller again. And so like, there's a lot of like blacksmiths and bakers and apprentices, and they get to go do it their own way. And I think that's probably like, I'll answer your question more specifically in just a moment, but I think we've seen that at scale with the number of people that have quit their jobs and they're like, I'm going to go do something. I'm going to change this space, right? We mentioned Chris earlier and some of the crazy ideas he's had. Now he's had the time to work on it. And you see some of those things kind of trickling along. And so we've had a lot of things incubated in the contingent workforce space the last 5 years. The ones that excite me are like, I'll throw it out and it comes up in every term, but like useful AI. Not AI slop for sake of like saying we did something with AI, but actually bringing AI in to make a process more effective. So the one I'll mention is I'm seeing a number of companies work on that program coordinator role that would exist within an MSP or a self-managed program. You're seeing AI tools that can actually take that function on or assist that with that function, right? So program coordinators' jobs become way less administrative in the next couple of years than they are today. And those people become way more strategic, which again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, now those people can swivel chair and they're not in some system all day. They're actually in front of their client, their end client, serving that customer. And so I think that's going to be a good thing for the space if we can get AI brought in the right way for an effective use, not to like slap AI on top of something that we're doing today.
Yeah. You know, the biggest AI slap I go through is the resumes right now.
Yeah, I bet.
Because people automate their resume to match the job description.
Everybody's perfect for a dude. The role we posted last month. We told people we don't want their resumes for that reason. I was like, I don't want your AI slop resume. We had them answer 5 questions and send their LinkedIn profile.
I remember you said you were committed to interviewing every single person who applied.
I did. I interviewed 75 of like 120.
That's amazing.
So I got pretty far. Yeah. But yeah, no, you're right on the resume stuff. And then on the flip side, though, people get disqualified so quickly because now a lot of the ATS systems are using AI to screen candidates more quickly. Which you kind of love and hate that. I've definitely heard of people that are like highly qualified for roles and they get disqualified with no real rationale. And so I think that part is kind of broken to a degree. Not hiring's broken, right? It just is. I think there's a strong use case for why you need good staffing partners to make this function work.
Well, I think also the resume is kind of broken because it hasn't changed since like the 1930s. Just the format it's being delivered is different. Like you might get it on a web page now, or you might get it on an email versus a printout. But we have so many more data points now that you can actually get a 3D version of somebody and figure out if they can they do this job, and not really about what their resume says. Yeah.
What's the answer to that though? Like how do you get past the what is past the resume? Well, like LinkedIn, I think attempted to be the new resume spot at one point.
Yeah.
There was like the video version of it at one point where you could like introduce yourself and like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think some laws have to change because of the liabilities of people exposing how good they really are, or other people comment on that. We'll probably have to change a little bit for this to really. But I do think at some point you're going to get human throughput as like a measure of horsepower at some point, and say that this person can produce this in this amount of time using AI.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's talk about business transformation. How does a company reshape your CW in terms of demand, specification, price?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say it starts top down. And so a lot of these leaders are trying to figure out how to get it in front of their leadership. And this is tough in companies where like contingent is an afterthought or a stopgap, or like, oh, that's where temp workers are.
Yeah.
It's not going to be transformative in those environments, right? And so I think a lot of the companies that have figured it out, they've got some strong leadership that understand this world already. For those who don't, their job is to start commencing leadership. We did a talk, I think it's releasing next week. We did a talk with one of our members. And the highlight from it, we just shared out today, was actually meeting your business where it's at. So like if the driver of your business is cost savings, cool. How do we lead with that? And you're trying to save money this year. Cool. I'll put on my procurement hat. I'm going to come into the room and that's all we're going to talk about. Now I know that quality and risk and all these other things might play into it. But understanding how your organization is, just how it's wired at the moment. And then partnering with leadership to make the CW program aligned to that narrative. And I think so often it's not aligned to the narrative of the broader company. I think that's actually our biggest job, is how do we take the CW program and align it to our organization? And then once it's aligned, how far can we go is really the question. And you see the companies that are in that, like, or the leaders that are in that how far can I go mode. And it's almost unfair to compare yourself to them, because sometimes they had better conditions than you did, or maybe they're just a crazy risk taker and they don't care if they lose their job. So I'm like, I'm going for it. I saw a stat this morning that I weave it in here. Elon Musk has only been right 19% of the time, the world's richest man, right? And like, which means he failed 81% of the time at like his prediction, or it just hasn't happened yet because he gives himself greater timelines. And like, if you were wrong 81% of the time in the contingent workforce world, you wouldn't have a job. Totally. And so I think a lot of people are in job protection mode. Like, how do I keep this job? I work for a really good company with good benefits, all the things. I love contingent, but like, let me not push too much. And so for that person, I'd say, hey, you've got to go get your leadership bought into the program. But the way to do that is, like I said earlier, and aligning it to the company. And then I don't know how we try to find a way to be right only 19% of the time, and that's a good thing. But I would love to, I'd love to see someone in our space that can do that.
Totally. I think the key is to double down on the right bets, right? So you take a series of the 81% that you're wrong, and then the 19 you're right. Then when you see those 19, you just keep, just keep putting more time into it, right? Just kind of like you did. You basically, you had this consulting thing, then you said, all right, this product idea is much better. And you double down on that, you know?
Yeah, you know where to spend your time. Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, how many service-based businesses have you met over the years that are like, we're going to become a technology company because technology has greater valuations? And it's like, bro, that is a tough thing to do.
100%.
Some have done it right and they carve it out, maybe make its own thing, or like let it go be on an island and kind of incubate for a while. But starting a company out of a company, that's tough. It's really tough to do that.
Yeah, we got to hone in our ADDs.
Like, and to your innovation question earlier, dude, like, if all the stuff that is in incubation, or like the innovative things that are coming along today, like were to go somewhere, we have enough innovation in this space. But I think people like to dream too, right? And they like to dabble with things and be excited. So I would just say, know when to stay focused on your main thing. Some of these companies let people take like half a day Friday and like go do cool things. Spend your half a day Friday on the cool things. Spend the rest of your week on the things that make money and like on your logos you already have.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know, I used to have an advisor that told me, like, once a week, spend about half your day the same time every week to just think and reset and recharge. And she goes, that amount of time you spend there is going to come up with 90% of your new ideas that actually will make money for you. And so
like most of your new ideas come like when you're walking or showering, nothing to do with work, right? Like that's when my brain can think as well.
100%.
What were you doing when unconsciously consciously unbiased came along? What were you doing? Do you remember?
I was biking.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
you're riding a bike and you're like, this is a good idea. I should spend time on that. Yeah,
totally. Anything else you think that important to add that I haven't asked you?
You didn't ask me where the space is going in the next 5 years.
I don't think anyone can predict.
I'm going to ask you that. In 5 years, Ash, where is this space? What's changed and what hasn't?
So, I think that it's funny. I went to a VC conference recently and they were running around saying that 90% of the jobs are going to be gone in 3 years, right? And definitely in 5 years. And I was like, all right, I'll go with that. So explain to me, you guys are now investing in AI tech recruiting firms in technology. If you really believe that business is going to zero, why are you investing in it now? And they're like, good point. So I think every change in innovation ends up changing how we do our jobs, but our jobs don't go away. And I think there are predictions that everyone's saying that everyone's going to lose their job and we're just going to be sitting around like farm animals and doing nothing. I don't buy that premise. I think technology creates more work, which creates more jobs, just different jobs.
Yeah.
So 5 years from now, we'll still be managing contingent labor. It just might be a mix of contingent labor and robots and the horsepower we talked about in throughput. Like it just may be different forms of work getting done, but you're still going to be managing that process.
Yeah, I subscribe to that, dude. I think to add to that, I think a lot more of us will be touching the new technology that has been created over this next 5 years.
Yeah.
My hope is, and I don't know if this will be the case, my hope is we don't have to log into 20 things and that there's some tool, right? And my guess is there's some agent that's going to plug into all of these things.
Yeah.
And we literally just talk to this agent all day and get it to move the things around.
Mm-hmm.
But there's different UIs for different things, obviously. But yeah, I feel like there are going to be more tools. Everybody's going to be in that administrator type seat of like doing something with technology. But I'm tracking closely, dude, like what's happening between TA and contingent. And if half the world is supposed to be working on a contingent basis by the year 20, it changed every year, right? By the year 2050, I don't even know what they say anymore, but at some point, I'll rabbit trail. Do you know why they say in the US it's only going to be 50% of the workforce?
Why?
Because the other 50% have to carry the insurance for the 50% that are not like insured. So largely it's based on the brokenness of how insurance works in the States. And so you've got someone likely supporting that independent person because benefits for an independent person is not great. It's not as challenging as people make it out to be either, but I think we're
a couple of partners kind of split the risk.
This was true for me. My wife has the comfy corporate job, carries insurance for the family. She's like, go take a risk. By the way, that's the bet. If someone listening on this call, your spouse has the benefits and you're not taking the risk, you probably should be.
Totally.
Someone's sitting there on some idea and they're like, one day I'm going to jump off and do it. Go jump, do it today. And then like, if it doesn't work in a year, go get a job. That's fine. But off the rabbit trail, if that is true, that half the workforce will be contingent independent in some form or fashion, the world of TA looks a lot different. And so you'll see contingent and TA morphed into one thing. And so I think these companies that do RPO today, they're positioned quite well. If they do RPO and contingent, they probably see these worlds coming together at some point as well. I'm tracking that quite closely to understand what that even might mean.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much, my friend. This is so insightful, and I hope everyone found this engaging because I think it was.
Yeah, Ash, thanks for having me on. Enjoy your time in London, and happy Friday, everybody.
Thank you. All right, have a good weekend.